So you've got a problem with your website, your church's website, where you've been watching the numbers and they were steadily climbing and now they've dropped. What do? I have the answers for you. I have 7 steps that I would take if I were you and I was in this situation. How did I come up with these? I was in this situation. Yeah, I monitor my numbers across my social networks with Sumall, SUMALL.com, which right now their business model is let's get a bunch of people on it and eventually we'll figure out how to pay for it. So I'm enjoying the fruits of the let's get a bunch of people on it. And I've talked to the founder and he just seems really responsive to a lot of ideas and everything. He's actually the guy behind Squarespace, if you're familiar with them. So it's a pretty big company. And every day I was getting emails saying all my numbers across my networks and everything is increasing except my website. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange. Why isn't TrinityDigitalMedia.com doing very well? Then I realized what had happened. So let me take you through 7 steps that you can take when you notice something like this, and I'll tell you what actually happened with mine. So first, don't panic. It's it's not likely that something catastrophic that you cannot fix has happened. And so you have a few days where everything is dropped down. Don't worry about it. Let's try and make an action plan as opposed to freaking out. Freaking out doesn't help anyone in most situations. It doesn't even make you feel good. So I just would recommend that you just, quite frankly, don't do it. So, no, step number 1, do not panic. Step number 2, check how much your numbers have dropped. If they've dropped like just a little bitty bit, if you started out with 5 people visiting your website and you're down to 2, well, that is a 60% drop, and that's kind of an issue, but you didn't have much to play with to begin with. Now, if you were getting 500 people a day and now you're down to 200, that's a bigger issue because it's not the fact that there was just a fluctuation with a couple of people, it's a fluctuation with 60% of a fairly decent number. Now, it's not like life hacker numbers or world changing numbers, but for a church website, 500 people a day would be pretty good traffic unless you're a pretty large megachurch. So, with that said, if if you've got great numbers and they drop 60%, you've got a problem to look at. If you've got numbers and they drop just a little bit, or you don't have very much to start with and they drop just a little bit, it could be that that's just par for the course. That's just a fluctuation. So, how much they drop really matters. I was in the hundreds and I went down to the single digits. That is a bit of an issue. So, that's why how much it changes matters. So, first step, don't panic. Second step, assess the situation, check what actually has happened. If someone tells you about it and says, "Oh, our numbers dropped," they might be thinking, "Oh, I guess it's that time in the year where the numbers drop." But you might hear, "Oh no, no one is visiting our website." Make sure you know which it is. Um, Number 3, look for simple reasons first. Now, this is where I stopped, and I want to explain to you what the simple reason was. I'm on WordPress, as I've mentioned before in these shows, and I use I used up until recently a child theme that I had developed based on the responsive theme. So recently there was an update to the responsive theme that somehow messed up my child theme. So I said, no problem. I'll just go back to responsive, make a couple quick tweaks just to get it back to where it looks right, or pretty close to right. So that's what I did. Having done that, I forgot to include the Google Analytics code. Bing! That's what the problem was. I had the code pasted in a couple of places where it didn't get updated, and so I was still getting a little something, but by and large, I didn't have the analytics code that was there to tell me that what my numbers were, so that's why my numbers dropped so precipitously. So this morning I went ahead and fixed that. It had been on my to-do list for a while, but when every morning you wake up and the first email you look at is saying that your numbers are horrible, doesn't make for a great start for the day. So I'm glad that I've fixed that. So simple causes can do this. Uh, it could be something as simple as you had a link on your website that uh, was redirecting to a good page, and then something changed and now it's redirecting to the 404 page, and so people have no idea what's going on there, and so they bounce right off. So instead of getting a lot of traffic, you're getting a lot of bounces. That's absolutely a possibility. So check those things. Just check for whatever has changed between where it was at, where it was, the status quo, and where it's at now, and see if you can undo that change or fix it in some other way. Again, all things being equal, it tends to be the simple thing that has caused this problem. It's probably not that Google has delisted you. It's unless sometimes your site can be hacked in very subtle ways, and Google will notice that before you do. So you can go to Google Webmaster Tools and check your site and see if that's the case. And if it is, you can fix that, you can let them know, and they will relist you quite often. So that's the next step that I would take. Next, now you'll need to do this when things are going right to get a baseline, but what I would do is I would go into the browser's incognito mode, or the just the way that just another browser that you don't typically use, or something where you're not getting results tuned to yourself, because you're more likely to get your website when you're searching while you're logged into Google, for example. So what I would do is I would head there right now when things are going well and figure out for the search terms that people are using to find your website. Again, if you're using Google Analytics, you can see, okay, they searched for uh, church, marriage, retreat a lot. And since your church has an annual retreat, it came up. I don't know. I'm just making that up. But you can find the keywords that people are using to search for your site and look those up, and maybe do a screenshot, somehow capture what that is so that you know what your baseline is. Earlier today, I did a search for the names of 4 of my shows. Since I haven't done as much promotion on Creating Church, I didn't do that one. But so, Tech Help for Churches. On the front page of Google, I have 3 of 10 results. Eternity Changers, I have all 10 results. That's probably because Eternity Changers is kind of an odd name. Technobabble, my Thursday graphic show, I have 6 of 10 results. And Church TechCast, I have 7 of 10 results. So I know that that's a baseline as of March 3rd, 2014. In fact, I'm going to write that down here. 3/3/14. So that's my baseline. if I go back later and I do a search for all those and one of them I'm not listed at all, let's say for Eternity Changers, I'm no longer listed at all, something has gone horribly wrong. So I need to figure out what has gone horribly wrong and fix it. And when I say horribly, I don't mean terribly, horribly, no good, very bad. I mean just, something that I didn't expect. I sometimes overstate when something has gone wrong. So, um, so do a search and compare with the past and see how things have changed. If you went from, as I say, 10 of 10 results to 0 of 10 results, and you can't even find any of your results, and you haven't changed anything, that gives you another clue that something went wrong in the search engine process. Number 5, it could be just that you need to do more marketing. Now, I've mentioned on another show that marketing is not a dirty word. Marketing is just getting the words out. And like our friends over at Church Marketing Sucks say, uh, church marketing just isn't very good. We relegate the church marketing to the sign in front of the church, and a lot of times that's not even very good. So I really want you to consider what kind of marketing you're doing, and maybe you need to do some guest posts, maybe you need some cross promotion, maybe your denomination's website needs some content and your pastor could write an article. That couldn't hurt. So, especially if you're in a large denomination, if you have your pastor writing articles once a month on the denomination website that point back to your church's website, you're likely to get more traffic. Uh, Number 6, if you can't figure it out, don't feel bad calling in an expert. Now, ask around, get referrals, because there are a lot of people that claim to be SEO experts, and it's not hard to claim to be one. You might think that since I've got 10 of 10 results for one of my search terms, that I'm an SEO expert, and I would not consider myself that. I know a bit about it, and basically most of those are coming from the fact that I upload a lot of videos to YouTube, and we'll talk about that on a future show. But I don't think that someone with my level of knowledge is necessarily what you want to go for unless you don't have a huge amount of money. But an hour consulting with with someone who's $200 an hour might give you all the ideas that you need to fix a problem where 10 hours with someone who's $25 an hour wouldn't. Do you see how 1 hour at $200 an hour is cheaper than 10 hours at $25 an hour? So sometimes paying what seems like a little extra for someone who really, really knows their stuff can get to the heart of the problem quickly and be cheaper in the long run. So when you're hiring an expert to help you figure this out, that might be worth doing. If someone doesn't know what caused your church's results to go down, it could be that it takes them a long time to figure it out. Whereas someone who eats, lives, and breathes this stuff goes, oh yeah, they just did an update. Here's what you were doing wrong. Here's how we'll fix it. And in no time at all, you've got an action plan. So I think that is really worth doing if it has just fallen like crazy. Talk to an expert. Number 7, this is what I think you should do just in general. Regularly do something positive to try and increase your numbers. Now, when I say that, I'm sure that some of you, something rose up in you and you said, increase my numbers, but we're the church. We don't need big numbers. There are too many churches that are all about numbers. Numbers. Okay. Calm down. Calm down. Follow me on this. Numbers are shorthand for people. Do you want more people to go to heaven? If your answer is no, please spend some time with Jesus on that, because I quite frankly don't get what's wrong with you. But if you have some pride, and that's what this really is, if you have some pride wrapped up in, well, we don't measure numbers, that actually is something to look at. My wife has just made some changes in her eating habits to eat a little more healthy, and she has added more fruit into her diet. And if you're like me, you're thinking, why didn't she eat more fruit? Fruit is like candy plus healthy. That's a win-win. Yes, I love fruit. She didn't love fruit for reasons I don't fully get. But she had believed that her identity was wrapped up in, well, Christina doesn't eat fruit. And when she realized that her identity was wrongly wrapped up in this silly idea, then that's when she made this positive change. And now she's eating apples, eating bananas. Last week she tried grapes. She didn't enjoy the grapes, but that's okay. She's eating apples and bananas. That's 2 more fruit than she was eating previously. So recognize where your identity is tied up in, and if it's wrong, deal with it. My church is talking about Acts, the early chapters of Acts right now. My pastor pointed out that after Jesus ascended into heaven, all the believers met in one place in a house, and there were 120 of them. If you think that 120 is too big of a church, you're thinking that Acts is too big. The Acts 2 church before Pentecost even was too big of a church. Stop and think about that. I think that that's a bare minimum of what you want to shoot for, because 120 believers changed the world. Really, they did. And then on the day of Pentecost, 3,000 were saved. So 3,120 believers then changed the world. That is amazing. So don't get tied up in, well, we don't measure numbers. Figure it out. We want to reach more and more people. I hate that most people die without knowing Jesus. You should hate that. That is wrong. That is horrible. We need to do whatever we can do to do this. So let's figure out what's going on with our websites. Remember that a website in the 21st century is like a telephone book advertisement in the 20th. It's just a bare minimum. So let's figure out how to get the word out more and more so that we can go out and change eternity. Until next time, I'm Paul Allen Clifford with TrinityDigitalMedia.com.